Jake Morrison knew something was wrong the moment the alien guards started moving their hands toward their weapons. He stood behind Ambassador Helen Cruz in the great crystal hall, watching the tall blue beings whisper among themselves. Their skin looked like glass with light flowing underneath. Beautiful but scary too. "Stay calm," Jake whispered to his squad through his helmet radio. Amy Davis and Tony Garcia stood at the other exits trying to look relaxed. But Jake could see their hands near their guns too. The peace talks had been going well for 3 days. Earth needed friends out here among the stars. The Zephyrian Empire controlled 12 star systems, and they seemed willing to trade with humans. Ambassador Cruz was good at her job. She smiled and nodded and said all the right things. But now everything felt different. Emperor Thaindros sat on his crystal throne, looking worried. His daughter, Princess Lyriseth, stood beside him. She was tall like all her people, with blue skin that glowed softly. Crystal-like armor grew from her body in beautiful patterns. Jake had never seen anything like it. "The humans lie," shouted General Vextar from across the room. He was bigger than the other aliens, with darker blue skin and sharp crystal spikes growing from his shoulders. "They come here with weapons and talk of peace, but their ships carry death machines." Ambassador Cruz stepped forward. "General, we've shown you our ship. Our weapons are for defense only. We came here to talk, not to fight." "Lies." Vextar hit his fist on a crystal table. The sound rang through the hall like a bell. "My scouts have seen human warships gathering in the next system. You plan to attack us when we lower our guard." Jake's stomach dropped. There were no human warships in the next system. At least there weren't supposed to be. Earth had sent only one diplomatic ship to this meeting. Something was very wrong. The Emperor raised his hand for quiet. "General Vextar, these are serious charges. Do you have proof?" "I have more than proof, my lord." Vexitar smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. "I have ships of my own waiting outside this palace. The time for talk is over." Jake saw movement outside the tall crystal windows. Dark shapes flew through the purple sky of Xerion Prime. Ships with the Zephyrian military symbols, but they were pointing their guns at the palace, not away from it. "This is a coup," Ambassador Cruz said quietly. She looked at Jake. "We need to get out of here." But it was too late. Vextar's soldiers poured into the hall from all sides. They wore heavy, crystal armor and carried energy weapons that hummed with power. The Emperor stood up from his throne, angry but helpless. "You dare threaten your Emperor?" Thaindros demanded. "I protect my Emperor from alien poison," Vextar replied. "Guards, arrest these humans, and arrest anyone who helped them." "Princess," Lyriseth stepped in front of her father. "General, you cannot do this. The humans came here under a flag of peace." "Princess, your soft heart will be the death of our people," Vextar said. "Stand aside." Jake made his choice. He stepped between the princess and Vextar's soldiers, his rifle ready. Amy and Tony moved too, forming a triangle around the ambassador. The crystal hall filled with the sound of weapons powering up. "Easy," Jake said, his voice calm despite his racing heart. "Nobody needs to get hurt here." Vextar laughed. "Look at them in their metal shells. Do they think their primitive armor will save them?" The general was wrong about one thing. Jake's armor wasn't primitive. It was the best Earth could make. But looking around the room at all the crystal weapons pointed at them, Jake wondered if it would be enough. "Your move, General," Ambassador Cruz said. "But remember, Earth will know what happened here. And Earth has a long memory. Earth will burn before they learn the truth," Vextar replied. Princess Lyriseth looked at Jake. Her large eyes were like purple jewels, and they seemed to see right through his helmet's face shield. "You are not what I expected," she said softly. "What did you expect?" Jake asked. "Monsters, killers. General Vextar told us humans were violent beasts who cared only for war." Jake almost laughed. "Well, I do care about war. I care about stopping it before more people get hurt." The princess tilted her head, curious. Her crystal armor caught the light and threw rainbow patterns on the walls. "You would fight to prevent fighting, if I have to." General Vextar grew tired of talk. Enough. Soldiers, take them. The crystal hall exploded into chaos. Energy beams flew through the air like deadly lightning. Jake pushed the ambassador behind a crystal pillar and returned. Fire. His bullets sparked off the alien's natural armor, but they still made them duck for cover. Amy S voice crackled through his radio. Jake, we're cut off. Too many of them. Hold position, Jake replied. We need to protect the ambassador. But, as he looked around the hall, Jake realized they weren't just protecting Ambassador Cruz anymore. Emperor Thaindros and Princess Lyraseth were trapped too. Vextar's soldiers were shooting at anyone who opposed them. The princess pressed against the crystal pillar next to Jake, her armor glowing brighter with fear or anger. This is not how first meetings should go, she said. No, Jake agreed, reloading his rifle. But sometimes you don't get to choose how things start. You only get to choose how they end. Princess Lyraseth stared at him through his helmet's face. Shield. Jake could see her thinking, trying to understand these strange humans who had dropped into her world and turned everything upside down. Do you wonder what's beneath this armor? She asked suddenly, touching the crystal plates that grew from her chest and arms. Jake looked at her bio-armor, then at his own metal suit. It was a strange question to ask in the middle of a firefight, but something in her voice made him think carefully before answering. Same thing that's under yours, I'd guess, he said finally. Someone trying to stay alive long enough to see home again. The princess went very still. Around them the battle continued, but for a moment they were in their own small bubble of quiet. Her purple eyes grew wide, and Jake saw something change in her face. His answer had shocked her. He could see it clearly, even through all the chaos around them. But there was no time to ask why. Princess Lyraseth stared at Jake for a long moment, even as energy beams flew over their heads. In her world, armor meant power. The more beautiful and complex your crystal armor, the more important you were. She had expected him to boast about human technology or brag about his weapons. Instead, he had said something that made her heart skip. Someone trying to stay alive long enough to see home again. The words were simple, but they hit her like a punch to the chest. Princess, we need to move, Jake said, checking his rifle. This position won't hold much longer. She blinked and looked around. General Vextar's soldiers were everywhere, their crystal armor flashing as they moved between the pillars. Ambassador Cruz crouched behind a broken statue, her face pale but determined. Amy Davis and Tony Garcia were pinned down near the main doors. The energy core chamber, Princess Lyraseth said quickly. If we can reach it, there are passages that lead to the upper levels. Jake nodded. Can you get us there? Follow me. The princess moved like water through the crystal halls, her bio-armor glowing to light their way. Jake stayed close behind her, the ambassador between them. The sound of fighting echoed off the walls as they ran. This way, Princess Lyraseth whispered, leading them down a corridor lined with glowing crystals. The energy core chamber was deep in the palace where few people ever went. They were almost there when 3 of Vextar's soldiers appeared ahead of them. The aliens raised their weapons, crystal spikes growing longer on their arms as they prepared to fight. Jake stepped in front of the princess without thinking. Get down! The fight was quick and brutal. Jake's bullets cracked the soldier's armor, but didn't break through completely. One alien got close enough to slash at Jake with crystal claws. The claws scraped across his chest plate, leaving deep scratches in the metal. Behind you, Princess Lyraseth shouted. Jake spun around just as another soldier's energy beam hit his helmet. The world exploded in sparks and pain. His helmet systems failed, and he had to rip it off before the electronics caught fire. For the first time, Princess Lyraseth saw his face. He was young, maybe 25 Earth years. His skin was pale compared to hers, with short brown hair and green eyes. There was a cut on his forehead where the helmet had cracked and blood ran down his face. But what shocked her most was his expression. He looked scared. Not of dying, but of failing to protect others. You're bleeding. she said, softly. I'm fine, Jake replied, but he swayed a little when he stood up. Princess Lyrazeth moved closer to him. Her armor glowed brighter, and she reached up to touch the cut on his forehead. Her fingers gave off a soft blue light that made the pain go away. Jake didn't flinch. He stood perfectly still and let her heal him, even though she was an alien, and he had no reason to trust her. That simple act of trust hit her harder than any weapon could have. Why don't you fear me? She asked. Should I? I am Zephyrian. My people have ruled the stars for 1,000 years. We are stronger and faster than humans. Our armor grows from our bodies like living crystal. We are superior in every way. Jake looked at her with those green eyes. You saved my life just now. You healed my wound. You're helping us escape. If that's what superior looks like, then I guess you're right. Princess Lyrazeth felt something crack inside her chest, like ice breaking in spring. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not as a princess or as a superior being, but as a person. We need to keep moving, Ambassador Cruz said gently. More soldiers will come looking for us. They reached the energy core chamber, a huge room filled with glowing crystals that powered the palace. The air hummed with power, and rainbow light danced on every surface. But they weren't alone. General Vextar was waiting for them with 12 soldiers. Princess, Vextar said, his voice cold. I had hoped you would see reason. These humans are a disease. They will weaken our people with their soft ideas. General, you have betrayed your emperor, Princess Lyrazeth replied. That is the only disease here. Your father is weak. He listens to alien whispers and forgets the strength of our race. Vextar pointed at Jake. Look at this creature. He bleeds from a simple scratch. He needs metal shells to protect his soft skin. How can such weakness lead to anything but defeat? Jake stepped forward, his rifle ready. You want to test that theory, General? Jake, no, Ambassador Cruz whispered. There are too many of them. But Princess Lyrazeth was staring at Jake's damaged armor. She could see the scratches where crystal claws had tried to cut through. She could see the scorch marks where energy beams had hit. His armor was not grown from within like hers. It was something he put on, something he chose to wear. That meant he was vulnerable underneath. More vulnerable than any Zephyrian. But he had chosen to put himself between her and danger anyway. General Vextar, she said suddenly. You speak of strength and weakness, but what is strength really? Crystal armor, energy weapons, the power to crush our enemies. Princess Lyrazeth reached up and touched the bio-armor that covered her shoulder. With a soft sound like breaking glass, she pulled away a piece of it. Underneath, her blue skin glowed softly, unprotected. Every Zephyrian in the room gasped. Removing armor in front of others was not done. It was shameful, weak. This human chose to protect others, she said, holding up the piece of crystal armor. He chose to risk his life for people he barely knows. He chose to trust me when I could have been his enemy. If that is weakness, then I choose to be weak too. She threw the piece of armor on the ground, where it shattered with a sound like bells. General Vextar stared at her in shock. Princess, what are you doing? Learning, she replied. The distraction was all Jake needed. He opened fire on the nearest soldiers while Amy and Tony burst through the side door, finally catching up to them. The energy core chamber filled with the sound of battle. During the fight, Jake saw a massive crystal formation starting to fall toward Princess Lyrazeth. She was focused on fighting and didn't see it coming. Jake didn't think. He just moved. He tackled her out of the way, just as the crystal crashed down. The sharp edges sliced through his back armor and into his shoulder. Pain shot through his body like fire, and everything went black. Princess Lyrazeth caught him as he fell, his blood staining her glowing skin. She had never held a human before. He was heavier than she expected, and warmer. His heart beat fast, against her chest. Foolish human, she whispered, but her voice was gentle. Why did you save me? Jake couldn't answer. He was unconscious, his face pale from blood loss. As she carried him to safety, Princess Lyrazeth finally understood what he had meant in the garden. Beneath his armor was someone trying to stay alive long enough to see home again. But more than that, beneath his armor was someone willing to die so others could see home too. For the first time in her life, she wondered what lay beneath her own armor, and what she might find if she had the courage to remove it all. Jake woke up in a small room deep inside the palace. His shoulder ached, but someone had bandaged it carefully. Princess Lyrazeth sat beside him, her armor dimmer than before. She had removed more pieces while he slept. "How long was I out?" he asked, trying to sit up. 2 hours. The palace is surrounded now. General Vextar controls most of the building. She handed him a crystal cup filled with glowing blue liquid. "This will help with the pain." Jake drank it. The liquid tasted like honey and starlight, and the pain in his shoulder faded. "Where are the others?" "Safe for now. Your friends Amy and Tony are guarding the ambassador in the next room, but we cannot stay here much longer." Jake looked around the small chamber. Crystal formations grew from the walls, giving off soft light. It reminded him of a cave, but beautiful instead of dark. "Where exactly are we?" "The old meditation chambers. My people used to come here to think and pray before we became too busy conquering other worlds." Princess Lyrazeth's voice sounded sad. "I used to hide here when I was young." "What were you hiding from?" She was quiet for a moment. "The weight of being perfect. Do you know what it is like to be born into greatness? To have everyone expect you to be wise and strong and beautiful from the moment you take your first breath?" Jake thought about his own life. "Can't say I do. I grew up in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Population 12,000. My dad worked at the corn processing plant. My mom taught second grade. The most exciting thing that happened was when the high school football team made it to state finals." "That sounds wonderful," Princess Lyrazeth said, and she meant it. It was normal. Good normal, I guess. Jake studied her face. "What about you? What was it like growing up as a princess?" "Lonely. I had tutors instead of friends, teachers instead of parents. Everyone bowed when I entered a room, but no one ever really talked to me." She touched one of the remaining pieces of her armor. "This armor, it is not just protection. It is a symbol. It tells everyone how important I am, how far above them I stand." "Must be heavy," Jake said. "Heavier than you know." Amy's voice came through Jake's radio. "Jake, we've got movement outside. Looks like Vexitar's soldiers are searching room by room." Jake stood up, testing his injured shoulder. It was stiff but usable. "We need to reach the communication array. Can you get us there?" Princess Lyrazeth nodded. "There is a way, but it is dangerous. We will have to cross the central courtyard where Vextar's ships can see us." "Any other options?" "Not if you want to reach the array before they find us." Jake made the decision. "Then that's what we do." They gathered in the next chamber. Ambassador Cruz looked tired but determined. Amy and Tony checked their weapons and equipment. Princess Lyrazeth studied a crystal map of the palace that glowed in the air above her hand. "The communication array is here," she said, pointing to a tower at the top of the palace. "We can take the maintenance tunnels most of the way, but the last part will be in the open." "How open?" Amy asked. "Very open. The courtyard has no cover, except for the fountain in the center." Tony whistled softly. "That's a lot of empty space to cross." "I will go first," Princess Lyrazeth said. "If they see me, they might hesitate to shoot. That will give you time to reach cover." "No," Jake said firmly. "We stay together. All of us." "Why?" she asked. "I am not your responsibility." Jake looked at her, this alien princess who had removed her armor piece by piece to show him trust. "Yes, you are. That's what teams do. We watch out for each other. Even if I am not human. Especially then." Princess Lyrazeth felt that crack in her chest grow wider. She had been taught that Zephyrians were superior to all other races. But this human spoke of protecting her as if it was the most natural thing in the world. They moved through the maintenance tunnels, crystal passages that hummed with energy. Princess Lyrazeth led the way, her armor providing light in the darkness. Behind her, Jake kept watch for danger while Amy and Tony protected the ambassador. "Tell me about your sister," Princess Lyriseth said as they walked. "The one you mentioned." "Kate? She's 2 years younger than me. Smart as anything. She's studying to be a teacher like our mom was." "Will she be worried about you?" Jake was quiet for a moment. "Yeah. She always worries when I'm off-world. She thinks being a Marine is too dangerous." "Is it?" "Sometimes. But someone has to do it. Someone has to stand between the good people and the bad ones." Princess Lyriseth thought about that. In her world, soldiers fought for glory and conquest. The idea of fighting just to protect others was new to her. "What about you?" Jake asked. "Any brothers or sisters?" "No. My parents decided one heir was enough." She touched the wall as they walked, feeling the pulse of energy in the crystal. "Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like to have a sister. Someone to talk to who was not afraid to tell me the truth." "Kate would like you," Jake said. "She always said the best people are the ones who ask hard questions." They reached the end of the tunnel. Ahead was a crystal grate that opened onto the central courtyard. Through it, they could see the fountain Princess Lyriseth had mentioned, and beyond that the communication tower. They could also see Vextar's ships circling overhead like metal vultures. "There," Amy whispered, pointing. "3 ships, armed and ready." "We'll never make it across in the open," Tony said. Jake studied the courtyard. The fountain was about 50 yards away, and the tower another 100 beyond that. Too far to run without being seen. "What if we don't all go at once?" he suggested. "Create a distraction here while one person reaches the tower." "I'll do it," Ambassador Cruz said immediately. "No," Jake replied, "you're too important. If something happens to you, Earth loses its best diplomat." "Then I will go," Princess Lyriseth said. "I know the palace systems. I can activate the communicator faster than any of you." Before anyone could argue, the sound of footsteps echoed through the tunnel behind them. Vextar's soldiers had found their trail. "Decision time," Amy said, raising her rifle. Princess Lyriseth looked at Jake. "Do you trust me?" "Yes." She reached up and removed another piece of her armor, this one from her arm. The crystal clattered to the floor. "Then follow my lead." She opened the grate and stepped into the courtyard. Above them, the ships immediately spotted her. Energy beams lanced down from the sky, but they were warning shots, not kill shots. "Princess Lyriseth," General Vextar's voice boomed from the ship's speakers. "Surrender the humans and return to your father's side." "I am exactly where I belong," she called back. That was Jake's signal. While the ships focused on the princess, he and his team sprinted for the fountain. They made it halfway before the soldiers behind them burst into the courtyard. The battle that followed was chaos. Energy beams from the ships, gunfire from the soldiers, and in the middle of it all, Princess Lyriseth ran for the communication tower. Her remaining armor glowed bright as she moved, making her an easy target. One of the ships swung around to intercept her. Its main gun charged up, ready to fire. Jake saw what was about to happen. Without thinking, he broke cover and ran after her. The ship's beam lanced down just as he tackled the princess to the ground. The energy passed over them so close that Jake could smell his hair burning. "Why?" she gasped as they rolled behind the fountain. "Why did you save me again?" "Because that's what you do for family," Jake said. Princess Lyriseth stared at him. "Family? Teams become family pretty quick when people start shooting at you." Above them, General Vextar's voice was angry now. "Princess, you will surrender immediately or I will destroy this entire section of the palace." Princess Lyriseth looked at Jake, then at Amy and Tony, then at Ambassador Cruz. These humans had risked everything to protect her, even though she was an alien they had just met. She stood up, pulling away the last major piece of her armor. It fell to the ground with a crystal sound like wind chimes. Underneath, her blue skin glowed with its own light, vulnerable but unashamed. "General Vextar," she called out, "I am Princess Lyriseth, daughter of Emperor Thaindros, heir to the Crystal Throne. And I reject everything you stand for." The ships above went silent. These humans showed me something today. They showed me that true strength is not the armor you wear, but the choices you make when that armor is stripped away. They chose to protect me when they could have saved themselves. They chose trust over fear, courage over safety. She looked at Jake. They chose to see me as a person, not as a symbol. Jake smiled at her. "Ready to finish this?" Princess Lyrazeth nodded. Together, they ran for the communication tower while his team provided cover fire. The princess's knowledge of the palace systems and Jake's determination got them to the top. Just as Vextar's soldiers breached the courtyard, as Princess Lyrazeth activated the emergency beacon that would call for help, she realized something important. For the first time in her life, she felt truly strong. Not because of her armor or her title, but because she had chosen to do the right thing, even if it cost her everything. Jake woke up in the palace medical bay 3 days later. His armor sat in pieces on a nearby table, and his shoulder was wrapped in glowing bandages that felt warm against his skin. Zephyrian medical technology was amazing, but it still couldn't fix everything overnight. "You slept for 2 days straight," Princess Lyrazeth said from beside his bed. She wore simple robes now instead of her bio-armor. Without the crystal plating, she looked younger and somehow more real. "Did the message get through?" Jake asked, trying to sit up. "Yes. Help is coming. But we have a bigger problem now." She helped him stand, her hands gentle but strong. "My father wants to see you." "That doesn't sound like a problem." "It is when half his advisors think you're a dangerous alien who corrupted his daughter." Jake looked at Princess Lyrazeth's simple clothes. "Is that what they think happened?" "Some do. General Vextar is in prison, but his ideas are still popular. Many Zephyrians believe that contact with humans will make us weak." She paused. "They want my father to prove that Zephyrian strength is still superior." "And how does he do that?" Princess Lyrazeth's expression was troubled. "By testing you in combat against our greatest warrior." Jake's shoulder ached just thinking about it. "Who's the greatest warrior?" "Commander Zephyric. He has never lost a fight. His bio-armor is the most advanced on our world. He can move faster than your eyes can follow and hit harder than your machines." "Sounds fun," Jake said dryly. They walked through the crystal corridors toward the throne room. Jake wore his dress uniform instead of combat armor. It felt strange to be walking through an alien palace without protection, but his regular armor was too damaged to wear. "You don't have to do this," Princess Lyrazeth said as they walked. "You could ask for Ambassador Cruz to negotiate a different test." "Would that work?" "No. My people respect strength above all else. If you refuse to fight, they will see it as proof that humans are cowards." Jake nodded. "Then I guess I fight." "You don't understand. Zephyric will try to kill you. In Zephyrian culture, holding back in combat is an insult. He will use all his strength." "Good," Jake said. "I'd be insulted if he didn't." Princess Lyrazeth stopped walking. "Why are you not afraid?" Jake thought about that. "I am afraid. But being afraid doesn't mean you get to quit. It just means you have to be more careful." They reached the throne room, where Emperor Thaindros waited with his advisors. The Emperor looked older than before, tired from days of arguments about what to do with the humans. Some advisors wanted to honor the peace talks. Others wanted to follow Vextar's path and declare war on Earth. "Sergeant Morrison," the Emperor said formally, "you have caused quite a stir in my court." "I apologize, Your Majesty. We came here for peace, not trouble." "Peace." One of the advisors, a tall Zephyrian with silver crystal armor, stepped forward. "You speak of peace while carrying weapons. You claim friendship while your technology could destroy our ships. How can we trust beings who hide their true nature behind metal shells?" Ambassador Cruz stood near the throne, looking professional but worried. "Your Majesty, Sergeant Morrison and his team saved your daughter's life. Surely that proves our good intentions." "Or it proves they are clever," the silver-armored advisor replied. Perhaps they arranged the entire situation to make us trust them. Jake felt his temper rise, but he kept his voice calm. With respect, sir, if we wanted to hurt you, we wouldn't need tricks. We'd just do it. The advisor's crystal armor flared, brighter with anger. You threaten us in our own throne room? No, I'm telling you the truth. My people don't like games and tricks. When we want something, we ask for it. When we don't like something, we say so. When we fight in the open. Emperor Thaindros raised his hand for silence. Enough. Sergeant Morrison, my advisors doubt human strength. They say your species is weak because you need artificial armor instead of growing your own. They say you cannot match Zephyrian warriors in honest combat. They're probably right, Jake said simply. The room went quiet. No one had expected him to agree. But strength isn't just about winning fights, Jake continued. It's about choosing to fight for the right reasons. It's about protecting people who can't protect themselves. It's about doing what's right even when it's hard. Pretty words, the silver-armored advisor said, but words will not save you in the arena. Emperor Thaindros looked at his daughter, then back at Jake. Sergeant Morrison, I offer you a choice. Face Commander Zephyric in single combat to prove human worth, or watch as my people vote to reject the peace treaty and prepare for war with Earth. Jake didn't hesitate. I'll fight. Very well. The combat will take place in 1 hour. You may use any equipment you choose. As they left the throne room, Princess Lyrazeth walked beside Jake. You could ask for your powered armor. It might give you a chance. No, Jake said. I'll fight without it. Why? That makes no sense. You'll be at a terrible disadvantage. Jake stopped and looked at her. Remember what you asked me in the garden? About what's beneath the armor? Yes. It's time I showed everyone the answer. An hour later, Jake stood in the palace arena wearing only basic protective gear. No powered armor, no advanced weapons, just a simple combat suit and a metal staff. Around the arena, hundreds of Zephyrians watched from crystal seats that glowed with their own light. Commander Zephyric entered from the opposite side. He was massive, even for a Zephyrian, with bio-armor that covered him like a second skin. Crystal spikes grew from his arms and legs, and his eyes glowed with inner fire. He moved like liquid lightning, fast and deadly. Human, Zephyric called across the arena. I will make this quick. Take your time, Jake replied. I'm not going anywhere. The fight began with Zephyric charging across the arena faster than Jake thought possible. Crystal claws reached for his throat, but Jake rolled aside at the last second. The commander's claws gouged deep scratches in the arena floor. Jake swung his staff, but Zephyric caught it with one hand and nearly twisted it away. The alien's strength was incredible. Jake let go of the staff and backed away, looking for another weapon or advantage. You cannot run forever, human, Zephyric said, advancing slowly now. Not planning to run, Jake replied. The commander attacked, again this time with a series of lightning-fast strikes. Jake dodged most of them, but crystal claws raked across his arm, drawing blood. The crowd cheered for their champion. Princess Lyrazeth watched from the royal box, her hands clenched. Tight. He's going to be killed, she whispered to her father. Perhaps, Emperor Thaindros replied. But watch how he fights. See how he moves. Jake was getting beaten badly. Zephyric was faster and stronger, and his bio-armor turned aside any blow. Jake could land, but Jake kept fighting, kept moving, kept thinking. He noticed that Zephyric always attacked the same way. The commander was used to winning quickly with overwhelming force. He didn't expect opponents who could take punishment. And keep going. Jake grabbed a piece of broken crystal from the arena floor and threw it at Zephyric's eyes. While the commander blocked, Jake dove between his legs and came up behind him. For just a moment, he had an opening. Instead of attacking, Jake grabbed Zephyric's arm and used the alien's own momentum to throw him into the arena wall. The commander hit hard, crystal cracking under the impact. Zeph, Rick roared and spun around, angrier now. Clever, human, but tricks will not save you. I don't need tricks, Jake said, breathing hard. I just need to be me. The fight continued for another 10 minutes. Jake couldn't match the commander's speed or strength, but he had something else. He had endurance and creativity, and the absolute refusal to give up. Every time Zephyr knocked him down, Jake got back up. Every time the commander thought he had won, Jake found a way to keep fighting. Finally, Zephyr made a mistake. He became so focused on crushing Jake that he forgot to watch his footing. Jake managed to trip him, and the mighty commander crashed to the arena floor. Jake could have attacked then, could have tried to finish the fight. Instead, he offered his hand to help Zephyr stand up. The arena went completely silent. Commander. Zephyr stared at the offered hand, then at Jake's battered face. Slowly, he reached up and accepted the help. As Jake pulled him to his feet, something changed in the commander's expression. "You fought with honor," Zephyr said quietly. "I yield." The crowd erupted in confusion. Their champion had never yielded, before, especially not to an alien. But in the royal box, Emperor Thandros was smiling. "Daughter," he said to Princess Lyrazeth, "I begin to understand what you see in these humans." As Jake limped out of the arena, bleeding but victorious, he knew the real battle was just beginning. Fighting Zephyr had been the easy part. Now he had to convince an entire species that strength came in many forms. But for the first time since arriving on Zerion Prime, he thought they might actually succeed. The throne room was packed with Zephyrians wanting to understand how their greatest warrior had been defeated by a human. Jake sat in a chair beside the throne, his injuries bandaged but still visible. Commander Zephyr stood nearby, his own bio-armor showing cracks from their fight. Emperor Thandros looked out at his people, then at Jake. "Sergeant Morrison, my court demands an explanation. How did you defeat our champion when by all measures you should have lost?" The silver-armored advisor stepped forward. "Your Majesty, this proves nothing. The human used tricks and deception. He did not win through superior strength." "You're right," Jake said, surprising everyone. "I'm not stronger than Commander Zephyr. I'm not faster either. In a straight test of physical ability, I would lose every time." The advisor smiled. "Then you admit your victory was meaningless?" "No. I admit that strength isn't what you think it is." Jake stood up slowly, his body aching from the fight. "You want to know how I won? I won because I've been losing my whole life." The crowd murmured in confusion. Princess Lyrazeth watched from beside her father's throne, still wearing simple robes instead of her crystal armor. "I grew up in a small town where nothing exciting ever happened," Jake continued. "I wasn't the smartest kid in school, or the fastest or the strongest. I was just average. But you know what average humans learn? We learn that most of the time, life doesn't care how tough you think you are. It'll knock you down anyway." He looked around the room at all the beautiful crystal armor and glowing skin. "The difference is what you do after you get knocked down. Do you stay down and give up, or do you get back up and keep trying?" Commander Zephyr stepped forward. "In our culture, falling is shameful. We are taught to be perfect from birth." "Then you're taught wrong," Jake said simply. "Nobody's perfect. Not humans, not Zephyrians, not anybody. The trick is not being perfect. The trick is being willing to fail and try again." "But what about strength?" the silver advisor demanded. "What about power? How can weakness defeat strength?" Princess Lyrazeth rose from her seat. Jake had given her the courage to speak, and now it was her turn to use it. "Advisor Kethron," she said, "you ask about strength and weakness, but you do not understand what those words mean." She walked to the center of the room where everyone could see her. "Look at me. I am the heir to the crystal throne. I was born with bio-armor that marks me as nobility. For 25 years I believed this armor made me strong." Princess Lyrazeth raised her hand, and with a sound like breaking glass, she activated the last emergency release on her remaining armor. The crystal pieces fell away, leaving her standing in simple cloth with her blue skin glowing softly. The entire court gasped. No royal had ever appeared before the court without armor. It was unthinkable, shameful. "Now look at me again," she said, her voice steady despite the shocked stares. "Am I weaker now? Or am I stronger because I chose to?" Remove what others expected me to wear? Emperor Thaindros stared at his daughter. Lyrazeth, what are you doing? Learning, father. These humans taught me that true strength comes from choice, not birthright. Sergeant Morrison chose to protect me when he could have saved himself. He chose to trust me when I was a stranger. He chose to fight without his armor when he could have hidden behind technology. She looked at Jake, then back at the crowd. And I choose to lead not because crystal grows from my skin, but because I want to serve my people. Not from above them, but beside them. Advisor Catherine's silver armor flared with anger. Princess, you embarrass yourself and your bloodline. This human has poisoned your mind with alien ideas. No, Jake said, stepping beside Princess Lyrazeth. She figured it out herself. I just showed her it was okay to ask questions. Questions like what? Emperor Thaindros asked. Princess Lyrazeth looked at her father. Like why we rule 12 star systems but have no real friends among the stars. Like why our people are strong individually but weak when we need to work together. Like why we fear other species instead of learning from them. Because we are superior, Kithran insisted. Our bioarmor, our technology, our culture, all of it proves Zephyrian superiority. Jake laughed, but it wasn't a mean laugh. You know what proves superiority? Results. And what are your results? A rebellion in your own palace. Half your people following a general who wanted to start a war, a princess who had to strip off her armor to get anyone to listen to her. He gestured around the throne room. You have all this beauty, all this power, all this technology. But until 3 days ago, I never saw a single Zephyrian smile. I never heard one laugh. I never saw two of you work together without someone giving orders. What does that matter? Catherine demanded. It matters because that's not strength. That's fear wearing a pretty crystal shell. Commander Zephyric spoke up. He is right. I have fought many battles, won many victories, but I have never fought beside someone who helped me up when I fell. That was new. Emperor Thaindros studied Jake for a long moment. Human, you say our armor is a shell we hide behind, but you wear armor too. Yes, sir. But there's a difference. Your armor grows from inside you. It's part of who you are. Mine is something I put on when I need it and take off when I don't. It's a tool, not an identity. Jake looked around the room. That's what I meant when I answered your daughter's question. Beneath this armor is just someone trying to stay alive long enough to see home again, but also someone willing to risk not making it home if it means doing the right thing. And what is the right thing here? The Emperor asked. Princess Lyrazeth answered. To stop hiding behind old ideas about superiority and inferiority. To make friends instead of enemies. To learn from each other instead of fearing each other. She walked to her father's throne. Father, you asked these humans to prove their worth. But the real question is, what is our worth? What do we have to offer the galaxy besides fear and conquest? Emperor Thaindros looked at his daughter, really looked at her, for the first time in years. Without her armor, she seemed smaller, more fragile, but also more real, more alive than he had ever seen her. You would have us trust these aliens? He asked. I would have us trust ourselves enough to make new friends, she replied. The Emperor stood up from his crystal throne. The whole court watched as he reached up and touched his own bioarmor. Like his daughter, he had worn it for so long that removing it seemed impossible. Commander Zephyric, he said, in your opinion, did this human fight with honor? Yes, Your Majesty. He fought to protect others, not for personal glory. He showed mercy when he could have shown cruelty. He earned his victory. Advisor Kithran, do you still believe the humans came here to deceive us? Catherine's silver armor dimmed. No, Your Majesty. I believe they came here exactly as they said, to make peace. Emperor Thaindros nodded. Then let there be peace. He turned to Ambassador Cruz, who had watched the entire scene with diplomatic amazement. Ambassador, I accept your treaty. Our species will work together as equals, not as superior and inferior races. Thank you, Your Majesty, Ambassador Cruz replied. Earth looks forward to a long friendship with the Zephyrian Empire. As the court began to disperse, Princess Lyriseth walked over to Jake. She held something in her hand, a small piece of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. "This is from my armor," she said, "not as a symbol of what I was, but as a reminder of what I learned." Jake took the crystal. It was warm and seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. "What did you learn?" "That the strongest armor is the kind you can choose to remove." Jake smiled. "My sister Kate would love to meet you. She always said the bravest people are the ones who ask what if instead of why not." "Your sister sounds wise." "She is. Maybe someday you can visit Cedar Falls and meet her. It's not much to look at, just cornfields and a processing plant, and a lot of normal people living normal lives. But I think you'd like it." Princess Lyriseth looked out the crystal windows at the purple sky of her homeworld. For the first time she wondered what other skies looked like, what other worlds held, what other people she might meet. "I would like that very much," she said. As Jake and his team prepared to leave Zarian Prime, he reflected on the strange turn his life had taken. He had come here as a soldier protecting a diplomat. He was leaving as a bridge between two species who had learned to see past their differences. The princess had asked him what lay beneath his armor. The answer, he realized, was the same thing that lay beneath everyone's armor, whether it was crystal or metal, or just the walls people built around their hearts. Hope. Fear, dreams, the desire to matter, to make a difference, to find connection. In a vast and often lonely universe. In the end, that was what made humans human. Not their technology or their weapons or their achievements, but their willingness to reach out to others despite the risk of being hurt. And sometimes, if they were very lucky, others reached back. As their ship lifted off from Zarian Prime, Jake looked down at the crystal palace growing smaller below them. Somewhere in those glowing spires, an alien princess was learning to lead without armor, to be strong without hiding, to find her own path among the stars. It was a good start,